Identity is not real. You keep watching all these people trying to tell you that you need to be authentic when authenticity is not real. And authenticity is usually tied to some sort of identity. You are a dynamic being. You have the capacity to be whatever you want. You don't have to just be this one thing. And you have different identities to people around you because everyone only sees you through their own internal subjective lens, right? So because they see you through their own lens, they have a perception about who they think you are. So their perception of you is going to be different. This is why some people might say, oh, I met this guy and he's mean. Or some people might say, oh, I met this girl and she's nice, right? It's all based off of other people's perspective about you, right? That's the first thing. So if that means that everyone can assign their own perspective to you, then why should you assign an identity to yourself when your identity is going to change based off of who you're around anyways? So that being said, and you could say, well, the identity is rooted in the self. The identity is about me. This is why it's called identity. I, me. Yeah, that's not true. Because the thing is that in order for you to have an identity, you would have to be static, meaning you never change. Because the way that you formulate an identity is by taking labels from society and placing it on yourself. And when you take those labels from society and you place them on yourself, this is who you think you are. And the reason why most people, some of the greatest people in history, the reason why they fall when they have those perspectives is because the moment the label removes itself from them or removes itself from the from the identity that they chose to accept, right? Now they're fighting to understand who they actually are because that thing that validated them is no longer attached to them, that label that they got. And the funny thing about that is that label that they got that formulated this identity was just programming from societal sources, from everyone outside of them. From the time that their parents met them when they were kids and gave them their name and told them that they should do this thing and they should do it this way and they should read this book. And from the time that they went to school and they were told to do this, and this. This is all programming by society, right? So you basically have to, most of your life is going to be spent unlearning the things that society has taught you because you're going to realize that most people in society are idiots, unfortunately, okay? But there's so many different ways that you can look at this thing called identity. But I will say that the number one thing, something that I had to come to this realization of myself is that you cannot identify as something because, and maybe I said this already, but I'm going to reiterate it. You can't identify as something because you have the capacity to be anything, right? Everything changes. So since everything changes and you're dynamic and you're not static, how can you have an identity? See, when you tell yourself that you have this identity, you're building a limitation on yourself. You're building a limitation on your mind. You're saying that I'm going to be this one way for this period of time, not knowing that things can change in the near future. And you have to be able to anticipate those changes. You have to be willing to be adjustable and adaptable, right? You got to be able to adjust. You got to be able to adapt. Some people think that when you're trying to build a strategy for life, the best strategy is to have a plan that lasts you for 10 to 20 years. What they don't understand is that sometimes the best strategy is also to be adaptable to the situation because you can't really predict 100% what's going to happen, but you can change as opportunities come your way. And you can look at what is the opportunity that presents itself at that moment and make that decision, right? So with that being said, you can't subject yourself to that. Okay, you can't. You just can't. It's not healthy. All right. You have to figure out what you want. The way you're going to figure out what you want in life is you have to ask yourself, what is painful for me? Okay. And there's two ways to look at this. You can look at this from the perspective of, I want to avoid pain because that makes me uncomfortable. Or you can say, I want to walk through the fire and endure the pain and embrace it and embrace the skin that is burning, because I know that when I walk through the fire, I will become a new being. Okay? Because everything that's made in this world to challenge you, everything. If it was easy, right? If it was easy, it wouldn't be worth it. Like, you have to challenge yourself. The hard things are the things that's really gonna change you. The hard things, and I'm not crying or anything like that. If you're watching this and you're like, you see me keep wiping my eyes, it's just for some reason when the weather changes, my eyes tear. But the hard things are the things that's gonna challenge you. The hard things are the things that's going to, the hard things which causes the most resistance is usually the path that you should go towards, because the path of most resistance doesn't come naturally to you, which means that that's the biggest challenge for your life. And overcoming that challenge in of itself makes everything else easier, because you went through the valley of chaos. Everybody talks about order, but sometimes you need chaos. You need both. You need order and chaos. Two polarities. Okay? Because if you have too much structure, then you don't leave any room for the new things that could happen. And if you have too much chaos, you don't leave any room to focus, to grow, like truly grow. So you know, like, if you really want to change, here's the thing I will say too, something I will tell you. You can know all the answers in your head. I'm telling you from personal experience. You can know all the answers in your head. You can know the direction that the market is going to go. You can know what stock you need to invest in. You can know who you need to connect with. You can have all of the skills and everything. However, just knowing is not enough. You have to be able to force yourself to act. You have to create the plan and then act on it. You have to. You have to. Okay? Just knowing is not enough. And sometimes you need to be able to act so much that your brain is not even thinking. You need to be able to understand how to control your mind and how to put yourself in a position to where you are you're taking the necessary steps in order to get further, and you're acting so much that you shut your brain off, because your brain sometimes will try to convince you to not do the things that's going to make you get the most progress in life. Because it might say, well, what about this thing? Or what about this thing? You know, shiny object syndrome is real. I'm talking from personal experience, especially when you think every single idea that you have is good. I think beyond that, you have to be able to trick yourself. You have to know what your weaknesses are, know how to trick your brain into going against those, and then acting in that direction. Like, I know, for example, that one of my weaknesses is that I'm really bad at taking action. But whenever I take action, it always works. And I know that I don't like letting people down. So if I get somebody to hold me accountable, I have a higher likelihood of being able to accomplish the goal rather than doing it for myself, because I don't really care to do things for myself for some reason. You know, when I first was losing weight and I lost 40 pounds, the only reason why I was able to do that is because I hired a personal trainer. And the only reason why the personal trainer worked was because I didn't want him to get up out of his bed to come train with me, and then I wasn't up and ready to train with him. That was literally it. Because he used to come to my apartment at 4 o'clock in the morning and we would train. So realize that and recognize that this identity thing that you're chasing is overrated. You're going to change, like, drastically, especially as you get older. So just roll with the punches, man. Keep it going. I'm trying to do the peace sign. Peace.